Hey guys, what is going on? We're back for day 4 of the Premiere Pro tutorial class thingamajiggy that we're doing here. In today's video, I'm going to cover off how you can use adjustment layers, color mats, labels and bins, as well as a little bit on the essential graphics panel, which if you followed me at all, you know I absolutely love that fella. Righto guys, let's jump into the computer. So here we have our beautiful Premiere Pro workspace. Isn't it just, yummy. Right, first things first, I want to cover off is adjustment layers. So I'm just going to open up a clip here from something that I recently filmed. What can we bring up? Drag this down into my timeline here. We'll mute this for educational purposes. And here's some footage. What we could do is if I split up this here, just go through and split up this timeline here, is to put a color adjustment on these clips. We could go in and click here and then go up to Lumetri color and then change this and then go down and then change this to try and guess. Or what we could do is go up to our project here, come down to this little new item and we can click adjustment layer. So think of adjustment layer as, you know how when you used to use like cellophane and stuff as a kid and you'd have a light and then as soon as you'd put like a bit of blue cellophane over the top of it, the light would then shine out blue, or if you put red, it would then shine out red. Adjustment layer kind of works like cellophane. Now, if you put your adjustment layer here down onto your footage, whatever you do to your adjustment layer up here will happen to the corresponding clips underneath. Now, you can put multiple adjustment layers, stack them up, and do different things to each of the adjustment layers. So if I click onto our adjustment layer down here and I go input a LUT here, throw on something like a fast color, you see the color changes to that straight away. But now if I turn off the adjustment layer, that change of color is actually on the adjustment layer. If I go here, turn it on and then scrub through, all of the footage that's under that adjustment layer is affected, not just the individual clips here. Now the cool thing about adjustment layers is you can stack them on. If I just remove the color I did to this earlier, we'll just get rid of that, bring that back to normal. If I want to change, say, the overall temperature of the image, I can do that on one adjustment layer. Let's say we want to make it really blue. Like now that I've done that to the adjustment layer, every image is affected. Same if I do that to the adjustment layer and make it really orange. Now it has a completely different warmth and a completely different feeling of the footage. Now if I scroll past to where the adjustment layer ends, that's our natural footage. And then this is what we've done with our adjustment layers. So you can see how you can get pretty in-depth with your color grading process and just keep stacking on stacking on stacking on stacking adjustment layers. And this is what professional colorists do. They usually use software much more advanced in Premiere. But that's kind of the process. I'll start with the first layer that does, like, say, your shadows or your midtones. Then they'll go up and like dial in their temperature and then up again and maybe throw in a LUT if they're trying to go for a certain color look. Adjustment layers are endless. You can also throw effects onto an adjustment layer. So if I just get rid of these two here, we just have the one layer. If I go effects here, and just for simplicity purposes, if I put a Gaussian blur on the adjustment layer, come over to my effect controls, scroll down, and then we crank up this blur here, there's not actually a blur on the footage as such. The blur's on the adjustment layer, and if you see down here, when the adjustment layer ends, there's no blur anymore. In this whole clip here, there's not actually a blur. But as soon as I scrub to where the adjustment layer starts, she's all blurry. Anywho, that's how adjustment layers work. You can do a whole variety of things with adjustment layers, and then the best part is whatever changes you make aren't actually embedded into your footage. Rather, they're on the adjustment layer, which means you can delete them, you can copy, you can paste. You can do everything to the adjustment layer rather than making changes to your footage. Even if you just want to trial something, like trial a different color, put it on an adjustment layer rather than putting it on every single clip, because that's just way too time consuming. So yeah, adjustment layers are handy. Next thing we're going to talk about is a color mat. Now, it might sound like a noob here, but I didn't even know that color mats existed for a long time. If I wanted, say, like a blue background, I'd go and make a blue background in Photoshop and then copy it over and then paste it into Premiere as a JPEG. But turns out there's this little sneaky button called a color mat, and it goes a little bit something like this. If we want to go down to our new item again, go down to color mat, keep all that the same. Now, I've got every possible color I want. If I want to bring in my McLeod Media color, which is a hex code of 3009cc, McLeod Media there, I go McLeod Media Blue, and just like that, I've got a full screen of color. And if I wanted to throw a logo on there, rather than me having to go into Photoshop and out of Photoshop and, just go through unnecessary steps that can really slow down your workflow, you can just do it all with this color mat feature. That's a pretty simple one, not too much to that, but super helpful thing to know how to do to really speed up your workflow. Now we're going to get into a bit of organization. Now I'm a stickler for organization. I do love a very thoroughly organized program here. You see this here? It's not very organized. What you've got down here is you've got this thing called a bin. Now the easiest way to think of bins is as folders. So if you open it up here and I say I want to call this colors, then I'll open up another bin and I want to call this footage, and then say I'd open up another bin and I want to call this sequences. Now all you do with these bins is just like you're organizing like your desktop or your downloads or something. You can just drag this in here. Probably need one called audio just for shits and giggles, and we drag this up here, and then just like that, that is just so much nicer. Now another sneaky little thing you can do is something called labels. Now I did mention labels in the overview video on day one, but if we come up here and go preferences and then down to labels here, what you can do is you can set your default colors here. So say if you're dragging in a video clip, when you drag it into your sequence, it'll come in as purple, or you can set, like I have nothing set, but say on like a supercars race weekend, if I'm filming for like 5 different drivers, what I can do is I can chuck all my footage into just the one sequence, call it the compile, and then go through and say, red is this driver, blue is this driver, green is this driver, pink is this driver. And that's just a really easy way for me to be able to just look from the outset and see what I have if I don't have enough footage of some driver. You can also use labels for, say, interview footage or A-roll, B-roll footage, just to distinguish in your timeline, because when you do end up with like 3-hour long sequences just worth of footage, like over a weekend of filming, it's really helpful to know like where stuff is without having to scrub through the whole thing. If I go up here to my keyboard shortcuts, see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have my numbers set as labels. Now, if you're on just the default one, you won't have that. So I have my custom keyboard shortcuts inbuilt here. This is what yours will look like. Now, if you wanted to change that, you go up to select camera 1 and then down here, and we want to get rid of that. We don't want that on there. So we go up to 1 again. If we go labels down here, if we type in label down here, and I click on purple, drag it up to number 1. Now pressing the number 1 on my keyboard will make this purple. And then you can do that all the way through from 1 to 0 on the top of your keyboard. Label them all different colours, so then all you have to do is press your numbers to label them. Another way to do labels, which is a little bit longer, is a right click label, cross, make that blue, or whatever colours you are, brown, and that's how labels work. So what you can actually do is you can label your footage different colours. So if I want this to be blue, the labels are represented by these little squares here. If I want this clip to be labelled yellow, when I drag these down in here, they'll be automatically labelled. So that's just another way you can organise your footage. Say if you're shooting from like different cameras or different SD cards, or you have 2 or 3 shooters and you want to be able to distinguish what footage come from what camera or what shooter, a really easy way to work that out is with labels. Now we get on to probably my favourite tab or window within Premiere, which is the Essential Graphics panel. Your Essential Graphics panel probably won't look like mine. I have bought a lot of presets and also made my own presets. If you're looking for some cheap presets, I get mine off Envato Elements, which is like a $30 a month subscription, but has unlimited downloads. Definitely look into it. Just send me a DM if you have any questions about what's best to buy. But the Essential Graphics panel works with something called a MoGart file. So you jump onto like a website like Envato or Motion Array or Storyblocks, any of those community sites that allow creators to contribute, pay a couple of dollars, not a lot for the value that you get out of them, and then you drag them from your Essential Graphics panel onto your timeline. Now for the purpose of this, I have made a couple of my own that I customize in After Effects. You see this one here, you would have seen me use this in a few of my videos. We'll just load that up and drag that in there, McLeod Motion Graphics. Now what I can do is, now all I do is just type in my text. So in this video, we talk about the adjustment layers, we're talking about color mats, we're talking about labels and bins, and we're talking about essential graphics. Now, 99% of the time, these graphics are pre-animated for you. So if I roll this, how smooth is that? Took me like 2 minutes. So that's the Essential Graphics panel. I'm not going to give away all my secrets in this video because there'll be a pretty in-depth module in my online course, the Content Crash Course, which is coming soon, and by soon it's whenever I pull my finger out and actually make it decent. Drop a comment if it's something you'd be interested in getting involved with. I'm trying to, test the waters to see who would like to learn everything we've gone through in these videos, but just in a little bit more in depth, and also have one-on-one access to me as a coach to really help you guys level up your content game. The Essential Graphics panel I hold very close to my heart. It's super fun and it really just takes your videos honestly to that next level. But that's all for this video, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. See you guys tomorrow for the final day of the Premiere Pro tutorial class. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. Let me start that again. I fucked up. Let me know what you thought of this video. If, fuck, well, how can I outro this? Fuck a duck. I feel just about as good as Lewis Mocker in Robbie's vlogs with the outro skills going on right now. I feel like they lack compared to the value in this content.